Go live, and I do. Hey, look at that. We went straight to live without the opening. Guess what, everybody? You don't get an opening tonight. Tonight, we're
We're
just
open.
going live. So, because I had to set everything up, and this is the screen we were on. Like I said, one of these days I'll understand how to stream, and it'll be glorious. But for now, welcome everybody. Everybody watching this on YouTube, everybody who's going to join us here live. We are talking with Micky and we are talking with Chris, and they are both from Agaric. I know them through all kinds of local activism and other fun stuff. And they work with a tech cooperative. And that is a thing that, one, I still don't think I fully understand. And I would love to. So I'm hoping that I get a lot out of this. And I think everyone should really, understand how these things work. Because I know how certain other co-ops work. But I think a tech co-op is just, it doesn't work in my head. I don't know why. So I want that fixed. And I'm hoping we get there. Because it sounds like, they're getting work. They're getting fun stuff done. I don't know how things are really going for you, Micky, but every time I talk to you, you're always so smiley and happy with me.
Mhm.
It must be a little more fun than having a horrible boss.
Yeah, well, fun is the first component of my life.
All right. So, I mean, first things first, I would just like to start out with like a basic understanding of what is a tech co-op? Like, what do those words mean?
Gobbledygook. No, it, it means that we are doing collaborative and cooperative development of technology. We build websites, we build apps, and work with clients. And we also include other developers that are freelancers that we've worked with, like as contractors for quite a while. And usually we work with those freelancers that are looking to have a better work life and not just outsourcing. We don't outsource our work. The way into a co-op is you don't go into an office and sit down and have someone in a suit ask you what you did for the last 10 years. You kind of hang around on the periphery and let us know what your expertise is, and then something pops up that, oh yeah, that guy, they know how to do analytics, or they know how to do this, or that woman, she knows how to do these graphic things and stuff like that. So it's not really exclusive, but it is more inclusive because you get to know the people that you're working with. And we tend to work with clients that are progressive and have an understanding of they don't want to outsource their work. They want a team that's going to be with them this year, next year, and the years ahead. So it's kind of impressive to our clients that whenever they're talking to one of us, they're talking to an owner of the company, or the cooperative. And a cooperative is basically just a company. We're an LLC, a Agaric LLC, and we define our how we work in our bylaws and our governance. And governance is something that all of the co-op members contribute to. We have meetings on it, like, whenever needed, and that's not really often, maybe every year or something.
Right.
Um, and it defines how we work as a cooperative. So I
So
don't
do
know
you,
this.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So Chris,
And
yeah,
Chris has something to add to that.
please, please.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna step back a little bit to make sure that we were, we had defined that it's a worker-owned cooperative. There's each worker is one vote in the operations of the cooperative, and there is also an equity position in the cooperative. So when new members come into the cooperative, they put so much money into essentially what gets used by the cooperative as a rainy day fund and then that would be dispersed if they left from the co-op. So yeah, tech co-op in this sense, it's worker-owned cooperative.
Yes.
So it feels like it works. I don't know how to put this, but kind of like, the local BNI type chapters where, where you have a bunch of business types, but they're all different business types. My problems with them have always been that it's just like basically people going to lead gen, right? It's not people building anything together. But so what you have instead is the same style of system where a bunch of people come together, put some money into a pot and start working together. But you're all working really with each other. And a lot of you team up on projects and share projects with each other instead of just showing up in the hopes that everyone in the room becomes your client. Like that's the shift.
Yeah. Well, as for the putting the money in the pot, that seems to always be the big thing for people. Like, how do I get into this co-op? And the way we've worked it out is we evaluated what we think our company is worth, since it's been around for about 15 years now. And we come up with the number, and we deduct a small amount from your check each month that goes into the escrow account to pay until you've reached the level of whatever number that was we've chosen. And how we figure out what we earn as a salary is dependent on, we have a conversation like, what do you need to operate in your life for each month? What would make you comfortable?
What's your survival number versus your
number.
comfort number kind of thing?
Yeah, everyone comes up with their own number, and then we do a little talking about that, like, well, could you live with less or could you live with more? And then we all decide that. And the reason that works so well in these times, like when people are laying off and stuff, because we can just meet. There's 5 of us, 5 owners in Agaric. We can just meet and say, hey, you want to take a couple of grand less for a few months until stuff gets better, until we get more clients, or hey, you want to make a couple of grand more because we got a few extra clients?
Right, make up for that thing you did last year for us.
There you go.
I got you. Okay. It's much friendlier.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great asset for long-term survival of the cooperative to be able to be so flexible internally. But to address more the cooperative aspect at large, people that, well, I mean, I guess a lot of that comes back to our use of free software as a foundational tool for our tech cooperative. So, we're working with free and open source software, developed as communities. And, we have put a lot of our work out there to the community to be able to take and do with as they please. Or, we're available to help them or to help another cooperative to use the tools that we've built. So, really the ethos of free software kind of fills in all of the cracks in our cooperative and branches out to everybody that we work with. So that's pretty key aspect of it.
It is, because a lot of developers work for a corporation and they have no rights to use the stuff they've built, even after they've left that corporation. So it's like they don't have anything to show for it. Some developers can't even show you their work because it was on the back end of some secure system, blah, blah, blah. But our work is free software, as Chris said, and we tend to build platforms that other developers can use. We have a lot of developers that write to us and ask if they can join Agaric. We're not ready to expand, and we don't really want to be a large cooperative. So in that case, we tend to do things like help them form their own cooperative with other developers that are seeking to do a cooperative. Or we engage them in how to work with different cooperatives that already exist in our major network of millions of, network of a lot of cooperatives that are doing things. And as any developer knows, when you get a project, you can't do everything on it. And probably on your team, they can't do everything on it, and you will have to bring in someone who is an expert at something. So, as I said before, we try to bring in people that are interested in working cooperatively, collaboratively, working with free software. There's requirements. They're not hard and fast, but it's like, you know, a corporation would have a requirement, like, you know, that you have to have this, you know, bachelor's degree and stuff like that. Well, we have not such silly requirements. We have serious ones. Like, what did you do and how can you do it?
Well, I mean, my favorites are all the wonderful requirements where they will say, we're hiring for X and we need 5 years experience in X. And you go to the person, you say, you know, the problem with that is it was released 2 years ago, so I don't think anyone has 5 years experience. And that's what you get out of the corporate jobs here. You know, it's crazy. So I want to kind of take a step back, though. You know, what it sounds like to me is this is a bunch of, you know, developer types who want to come together, share their work on projects, cooperatively build something that builds some stability, without having that really strict top-down structure that I personally think kind of strangles things. It gets in the way of any innovation. And at the same time, you're using, you know, free software to power everything that you can use it for.
Yes.
So to me, this sounds like an LLC gets set up, and anyone can, of course, set one of those up. Those are, you know, cheap to set up. They're pretty easy to set up. But where it gets interesting is in your bylaws and how you organize the company and how you structure the rules. And so what I'm wondering is, on that front, is any of that information open source itself? Like, is there a Git repository with bylaws that, you know, people can go and borrow from, or?
Well, once we can get our head above the water and our work and stuff, we would love to contribute to something like that. The idea has been floated around quite a bit, but if you're in the network, or you know a cooperative, or you know an Agaric, or you know someone from a different tech cooperative, we share our bylaws with each other. We just haven't had the luxury of time to put a GitLab account up there and get everyone to put their stuff in. So I'm actually working on a little site right now called Co-op Guide that is for freelancers and stuff to put in their skills and wishes, like what do they want to work on, what kind of skills do they have, so that we can all get to know each other a little better. Kind of like Odesk or whatever, but not like Odesk or whatever.
Right.
It's very informal, where you can go there and say, hey, I'm looking for some CSS doers. And it would pull up a little list, and then you can dig deeper and see what they've done, see their portfolio, etc. But, you know, just very basic. Getting to know people is at the core of cooperatives.
I would say also, you said something that was really important to me on more of a personal level. Like, when I work on web projects, the one thing I don't want to do, the one thing that is just the bane of my existence, that I can do if I have to, I have 20 years experience doing this, is the analytics work and setting up the trapping for events and all the other stuff. And I don't want to. I want someone else who actually, for some unknown broken reason in their head, enjoys analytics. Because that ain't me.
But you don't want someone who, like, swims in, does it, and runs away.
No, I want someone who I can build a rapport with, so the next couple projects get easier and easier, and we kind of understand each other, you know?
Yes, that's the ticket.
So I had a big, long conversation with my partner on our projects here. We do, you know, as you know, we do a lot of the same type of work, you know, building out websites, a lot of small business stuff. And we are, of course, running in a lot of the old school ways and lots of stupid outsourcing and just doing it all wrong, honestly. Like, as wrong can be, and having trouble keeping clients because of it. Like, you know, it's just horrible. We could do the work, but, like, that's another reason for having this conversation, is I really want to understand this a lot better. It makes so much sense, but I want to touch on some of the business side of it, because, like you said, there's kind of 5 owners of yours specifically, but there are many others of these with different varying sizes and shapes, and that seems to be one of the cooler things, is anyone can kind of sort of think up some new twists to it. But I hope they're better ones and not controlling ones, of course. But, you know, on the business side of it, you said people take salaries, and you're kind of like, it's figured out to keep people comfortable and happy, which is the most thoughtful way that could possibly be done, instead of, you know, just straight value because you worked on these 6 projects. You know, like, everyone needs to be able to survive if you're going to keep them alive enough to be on the projects you need them for. So I love how you have that structured. But I'm wondering, you know, where does, like, so people in the cooperative, they, of course, obviously are out there talking to people. Your clients are talking to people. Do most of your clients come from referrals from people who are in network, or are you out there advertising? Like, where do you land these clients that keep up salaries for web work?
We have never marketed ourselves. We just don't have time to. We thought we had time last year and started talking about it and doing some things, you know, like, let's get professional and do some marketing.
Right.
And then 3 clients come to us and it's like, oh, put that away, you know.
So it's all like referral work.
Yes, it's all word of mouth. Our clients bring us clients. And we also, as I said, we build platforms. So one of the platforms we built was for the city of Cambridge, and it's called Find It, the Find It platform, and it's a deep resource program locator and search tool so that you could find, you know, ballet lessons for my 3-year-old in Cambridge from 3 to 5 where everyone wears green, you know, that kind of.
Nice.
Yeah, it gets pretty granular if you want it to. But that's a platform we've built that has now become a Drupal distribution. I guess everyone knows Drupal is a content management system that a lot of websites that you visit are built in. So one of the avenues into working with a cooperative or using cooperative resources would be for anyone, be it a developer or non-developer, to take the Find It platform and find some city person who works in the legislature for your town or city and introduce this to them. And then Agaric can be the capacity to help set it up and build it out. Or you can do that yourself. So it's like,
but that does lead to work from cities for you, which is kind of cool.
Exactly.
So the open source nature of what you're doing is also generating work.
Yes, very much so.
That's really cool.
So, and colleges find us. We do a lot of work with some healthcare type sites. And Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
I was just going to say that in terms of the salary aspect, like, while, you know, we do get the same salary, you know, most of the time anyway.
Right.
There is also the possibility to have incentives if you want that inside of a cooperative. You can do like patronage for the members as long as you have some quantifiable measure. So, you know, whether it's the total hours worked or whatever, you know, that
so
you
you're
can.
kind of talking about like a baseline with some sort of almost a bonusy system based on effort.
Or a negative bonus. There's many months where I say, hey guys, I don't need any money this month. And stop giving me that money thing.
I mean, I love the sound of all of this. It sounds so much, the best word I can come up with, honestly, friendlier than any of the other situations I've been in or kind of, you know, heard about.
Absolutely. Yeah. It comes with the, it is. And there is one trade-off to that, is that it comes with more responsibility.
Yeah.
Because you know, when it comes time to do the accounting, like if we don't have an accountant at the time, someone's got to do the books. You know, so there are. Right, exactly. So, I mean, that is one thing, you know, for anybody considering going into a cooperative, that is one potential, you know, cost of it for personally, is that, you know, when push comes to shove, there's stuff that you're just going to have to do that might be outside of your normal day-to-day work that you want to be doing, type of thing. And, you know, you got to be responsible for that. So.
That makes sense.
So it's very important to have
the owner having stuff just fall on their head, you know, because
yeah.
someone at their job, you know, couldn't. Maybe they got sick. Maybe they lost a person. Maybe they fired a person, and well, it doesn't fall on any of the other employees. And with you all being owners, I guess that makes a lot of sense. I wasn't thinking about it that way.
Yeah, that can be like either good or bad, but at least you're learning. You learn something. And no one will hold your feet to the fire.
Yeah, you
do
don't
it.
want me doing accounting. That you
Right.
don't want me near that.
So you could either opt to find someone who does accounting and then barter with the co-op or talk with the co-op about, hey, we can get, Jim and Julie to do this for this much a month. Can I get out of this?
Right. And it's not that I'm not willing to. I know that is really outside of my skill sets. It's just,
Yes.
I'm gonna do it wrong, and accounting is one of those things that you don't want done wrong. Even if I try, I know I'm gonna do it wrong. Like,
Right.
hit me up with anything else but that.
Okay,
so you mentioned
analytics. No.
Yeah, well, so the analytics I can do, I just don't I don't enjoy it. Like, I sit there all day trying to find another YouTube video to watch that isn't me doing work. You know what I mean? Like, and you never want to find yourself in a situation where you're working and your entire mind is focused on finding new ways to procrastinate today. So
True.
I don't enjoy analytics work. It's not my thing. But I'm horrible at capitalism. I am not winning capitalism at all. But
no, me neither.
You talked earlier about when people come to you and you guys aren't ready to expand and you aren't in that mood to add more people or in a place to, just depending on that, you would help them set up others, or that there's also, you joked about 1 million, but like that there is a network of other co-ops out there. Like, is this a large space? Are we talking there are 10 of them, or there are 10,000 of them? Like, is this a big thing?
Well, the USFWC, the United States Federation of Worker-Owned Cooperatives, has about 4,000 individual members and 5 to 800 co-ops. I'm not really sure of the exact numbers, but there are quite a few. And we maybe have about 10 or 12 close in our network, but each of those has maybe 10 or 12 or less or more in their networks. So it's like a ripple effect. If we let someone in the 10 co-ops we know that we're looking for this or we need that, they let their networks know.
Yep. So have you ever found, being that you try and work within the co-op nature of all of this, have you yet, like in the last couple of years, run into a skill set that you didn't find in a co-op? Like when you reached out and said, I need X, did you have to go somewhere and, just find an old school kind of a setup?
Well, right now we're trying to help put together a marketing co-op for people who don't have the word of mouth referrals. And that seems like a real a chase. We've been trying this for a couple of years. We don't have a lot of time to devote to it, but I've tried assembling the people and, getting talks together, but it really needs someone to manage the process, and that person has not shown up yet. So one of the things we do kind of go to a friend who is not a co-op, but he has a company that does SEO. So I'm not familiar with an SEO cooperative.
Interesting. Yeah, Chris?
So, yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, in terms of general business services, we've had some difficulty, finding, a cooperative that fills every niche kind of thing. But in terms of the general network that we have, both cooperatives and individuals, it seems as though each network has got a bit of a varied skill set, and, we really haven't had any shortage of skill availability at all. No. Technical skills.
That's really awesome to hear. On the marketing side of things, I did SEO for years. I do actually like that work for some reason. I don't know what it is, but I enjoy keyword research, and people think I'm crazy for it. But
doesn't that pair with analytics kind of well?
No. See, one is doing the initial work where you're figuring out where people are coming from. The other is figuring out what they're doing when they get there, and I don't care about that. We need two people: one who drives the traffic and one who deals with the traffic. That's kind of how it's broken up in a lot of the SEO world there. But so there's somewhere between the 500 and 800 range of co-ops out there that do this type of stuff, And here locally, I mean, I don't know of others, but I haven't really looked hard for it either. Are you kind of the kind of Boston co-op for this stuff, or do you know of others? Are there
that are local? You mean in Boston?
Yeah. Not that we need to name them or anything. I'm just wondering, like, how, like, I'm trying to get a feel for how this works out. Because one thing is, you're so close to me that I don't want to start up something that competes with you. Although that also seems a little odd in this space where it wouldn't.
No, there's no competition, man. No, there's plenty of space. But as for being local, there really isn't such a thing. We're international. We are based in Boston, Minneapolis,
That's
Pueblo,
right, because it's all remote work.
Nicaragua, Hamburg, Germany, Denver. We have we're not local. So
I love that.
That has never been an issue. But I did want to say we have connections with cooperatives in South America, in Buenos Aires, and they have a really interesting organization called FACTIC. That's FACTI, a FACTIC. And what FACTIC does is they coordinate the cooperatives. Like, say you get a big job and you're only a 3-person cooperative, they will find other cooperators, developers, marketers, whatever you need, and put together a team with you. So that is something we're striving to do in the U.S.
Is that like the website you're talking about, maybe leading towards that, like a step one?
No, I wouldn't say so.
No?
No, well, it could be used by an organization like that, but I don't see it ever growing into that big a thing, at least not with me at the organizing it or building the website. That's beyond me.
I don't know about that. I think maybe you could argue that it's beyond your time availability.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's different than saying it's beyond me, right? I think the skill sets are there. I think the time availability is probably problematic for something that large.
True.
That's interesting, though. I really like that. So the platform that you were talking about building out locally is the idea is that people can go up, they can list their skill sets, they can say what they want to work on, and you're going to have some kind of a matrix where someone else could go in and search for, I want someone with CSS skills, but with like Tailwind, not Bootstrap or something. And, and then say like, and for the audience, those are just 2 like CSS frameworks. And then you'd pull up a list of people that they could look at. Now, one of the things that I find interesting there is on all the other platforms, like the Odesks, like the freelancer.coms and all that, one of the things that is a really positive in terms of if I'm hiring someone and negative in terms of if I'm a new developer is the barrier to entry, because it might be free for me to sign up and maybe I can pay a little more to show up slightly higher in results. But if my profile by now doesn't already show 1,000 completed jobs with a rating of 5, I'm not landing the work. And there are so many people with those skill sets on those platforms already that I just can't compete with them. I could go, I've never had to before, but now that I'm looking for a little more side work, or a little more honestly main work, if I go and create these profiles, they're going to have 0 reviews, 0 stars. I'm going to have to rely on, like, you could go look at my Twitter. I've got like 100,000 followers. Like, does that help tell you that I know something? But no. It doesn't, right? It doesn't help on those platforms. So does yours in some way address that? Or how do you think about that? How do you, like, it feels very negative to me.
Yeah, well, getting to know people is the clue. So having some monthly meetings where people come and talk and get to know each other. It all goes back to that, the thing people don't want to do, get to know someone. It's like, I'd rather just look at their, accreditations or like some badges that they have or something. Those are useless. Those are meaningless. Haven't we figured that out yet?
They really are. I have dealt with people who have 100% on those things with 5 stars and 1,000 finished who don't know what they're doing.
No. But if you talk to that person and then you talk to a few people they've worked with, hey, that's a little bit better. If someone says, I worked with Jim and he was excellent, or I worked with him, Jim didn't do shit.
Right. So your platform isn't going to be local, obviously, in the vein of everything else. It's going to be anyone in the world
It's
can use.
international. Yeah.
Cool.
It's just basically people who come to our show and tell. Agaric hosts a show and tell every week at Thursday, 3 o'clock ET, Eastern Time. And you can find it on our site, agaric.coop/show. And we talk about things we've learned. People do some presentations of things they've learned. And it's a skill sharing thing, but it's also not limited to technology because we are fully blown people. So it has to deal with some cooperative subjects too, like this very one we're talking to could be hosted on a show and tell.
We did, I was on one of your show and tells a few weeks back, and it was about 11T, the static site generator.
Yes.
And that's what I actually used to build out GreggHoush.com. And so I wanted to see kind of what you guys were talking about, because I had only started using it literally like a week before and already built out my complete site with it. So I was in love with the software. And yeah, for anyone in the space doing this type of stuff, if you have a new toy that you want to show everyone and show them what you figured out, definitely look at Agaric's show and tell stuff. And obviously, if you just want to see what other people are finding and figuring out, you can definitely go watch the show and tells. They're always informative. They're really cool.
Yeah. Well, it turns out to be more of a conversation than those things they have where everyone can demo their new product or their portfolio or demo your site. It's none of that.
It's the difference between like what you guys are doing versus like a BNI when you're talking about anyone can show up and kind of just use their skills. Like, you know, a co-op is a very different idea than that because, I don't know, again, it's more friendly. I'm in love with this whole thing. I didn't fully understand it. Like, one, I didn't know you guys were, like, legitimately, like, a LLC or any of that type of stuff, right? Like, I just didn't understand the structure. Because I know some co-op people who are off in the woods doing co-op farming who don't have government paperwork that says they own the land, like, let alone an LLC. So the word co-op can be, like, anything on that spectrum, right?
It's what you make it in your bylaws and your governance. And when you're starting to put together a co-op, those are the things that take the longest. Doing your governance, like how is this run? What are you going to do to support someone and give them a reward? Or what are you going to do if someone's bad and runs away, doesn't do all their work? You know, what are you going to do if all of a sudden you get a client and they pay you $2 million? You know, like, will you still exist? You know.
Yeah, what does that cause? You know, so that's another interesting ones. Like, so are the people who are in your co-op this is their full-time work? They don't have, I mean, like a full-time other job, so they're employed. Their employment status is full-time.
No, this is it, full-time, Agaric.
Okay, so, you know, I just, because I want the audience to really understand all of this. So, as an LLC who has full-time employees who are also owners, you have all the standard benefits, all that type of stuff. Everyone is covered?
Well, no. That's another thing.
Yeah, so,
there are organizations like recently the USFWC managed to secure some kind of a package for health insurance. Specifically dental and vision and disability insurance and stuff like that.
Yep.
So they're like an organization that supports cooperatives and they're approachable. You actually get to know people in there and you talk with them about what are your co-op's needs. And a lot of co-ops said, we need dental insurance. We need vision insurance. So that we signed up for that last week and it comes effective January 1st. We'll all have our dental insurance, and it's pretty cheap. I think it was like $30 a month or something.
That's amazing.
For dental and vision.
That's amazing. So you're just on the USWC, which is the
USF, the United States Federation of Worker Cooperatives.
USFWC. So you are a member co-op. I guess is that like how they describe them? So you're a member. You've joined. You have dues, meetings, you have things falling down.
And my battery is about to die, so I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, and you can talk to Chris. I'll be right back.
All right, everyone. How's it going,
So
Chris?
yeah,
So yeah.
Very well. So yeah, we're members of the USFWC, and like they do have, well, in normal times they have conferences,
Yep.
and there's a Eastern and a Western one, and those are really great events to get to meet a lot of cooperative people and learn a lot of things just about, like that organization does a lot to help support cooperative businesses generally. So, for example, at one of the conferences, they had training sessions ahead of the conference for people to learn to do their bookkeeping and stuff. So, there's a lot of that kind of support. Unfortunately, the health insurance has been a sticking point for a while, and that's partly just a symptom of our size. It's like once you reach a certain size, you have to have it, but under a certain size, it's harder to get, and that's just a general business thing.
Right. That affects
the unfortunate. Right. Yeah, and it depends on the state that you're in too. I guess some states do actually recognize cooperatives, differently than other states do,
Like you
for
could
tax
register
purposes
as
and
a
so on.
co-op instead of registering as an LLC or something like that?
I believe so. Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, at the there are. Oh, I forget the details, but there are differences both at the federal. The federal level does have some recognition for cooperatives, but at the state level, I forget exactly how the differences work. But it would apply to for example, patronage and stuff like that, being able to claim patronage and whatnot.
That's really interesting. So depending on what state you're in, you definitely have to look up, what the proper way to format and form your group is. It might be an LLC. It might actually be recognized as a co-op. You might have to ask your Secretary of State exactly what they want you to do there. So that's a good bit of information. And then I would say the thing that I heard from Micky before the battery and all the other fun stuff there was the USFWC, is pretty helpful when it comes to getting an understanding of forming these things. And if you make friends, which just sounds like it's pretty easy to do there, they're happy to answer all your questions about, how badly you were doing it to start, because I'm sure everyone stumbles, as we all do with new things. So they sound like a really supportive group of people. How big is the group itself? Like, is that a small, are they run like a co-op and they're just a group of 5 people who do this for the world, or what is that like?
Well, they're actually a non-profit, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that right, Chris?
I'm pretty sure that they are structured as a non-profit. Yeah, and they have another branch. The Democracy at Work Institute is. Let me see.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the parent organization, I believe. Or maybe vice versa. But in any case, yeah, I'm pretty sure that they're structured as a nonprofit. It's not a huge group,
No.
but it's pretty. I think it's a pretty broad membership. 200 businesses with about 6,000 workers across the country.
That's really awesome. That is actually pretty cool. So being a member there and then kind of having your own network, you've landed a lot of clients through just the networking part of this. Being all of you kind of, the co-op types are a niche unto yourself. And so you share with each other. That's kind of, that sounds like another kind of friendly piece of this.
Absolutely. There's 7 cooperative principles, and one of them is working with other co-ops and supporting them.
So you try and stick within kind of the co-op network.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like that. I like that a lot. That sounds like every bit of this sounds so much better than the other way we do things, that I'm wondering, 1, why I've ever done things the other way, and 2, why it was ever built the other way, other than, of course, the rich getting richer part of that.
Right, but it's all it's all that's presented. A few years ago, the only university doing a course on cooperatives was Cornell. And now there's things like the New School and other institutions, and a lot of them in Europe are hip to the fact that there needs to be a course on cooperatives and how to form and how to, longevity, etc.
That's pretty cool. So for anyone who doesn't know, the New School is actually like the name of a school. It's in New York, and it's a pretty cool place. They've actually had me down a couple times to talk about Anonymous, and hacktivism and the effects of hacktivism on politics of the world in the last decade. And so I've had a lot of fun there. They've got a pretty cool kind of hip group of professors. Very, very progressive when I was there. It was very modern compared to a lot of the older structures, because I've talked to Harvard and all these other places, and you go there and it's it feels like you're standing in 300 years of history, and at the New School it feels like this is as up to date as you can get,
Yes.
So I loved it there.
Well, that's where the platform cooperativism movement started, with a professor, Trevor Schultz.
Nice.
And he started it, I think it was about 5-6 years ago, and I just happened to stumble into it because I thought the conference was really interesting. It was just titled Digital Labor. I thought, hey, I've done some of that.
Yeah, right.
And I ended up going there, and then every year after that, I ended up as a speaker.
That's awesome.
It's an amazing movement. They published a book, and it's got 35 authors. I have an essay in it, and it's called Ours to Hack and to Own. And it's a fantastic book, little chapters that are short enough to read in a few, in a sitting. And it's the cooperative movement from many different angles and perspectives that you wouldn't even think of. My chapter is about day-to-day business in a web development co-op.
Can you make sure that I have a link to that? So in the description on YouTube, when I upload this tomorrow, I want to put a link to that so people can go get it. Plus, I want to read it. I'm dead serious here, for the audience and you guys. I really do. I'm really interested in this whole idea. I was in the middle of building out a couple platforms that were really tightly focused on small local businesses here in my city. And because I wanted to work local, I wanted to work with people who I could really see the difference I could make. And one of the big problems I ran into when the pandemic hit was literally every business person that I was talking to and working with to get this platform going had to shut their doors. Not one of them stayed open, and most of them couldn't even pay their employees, let alone, pay me to keep building this thing. So I just ended up, my aim was right on launching end of March. And boy, was that bad timing after a year of building. Not on anyone's part on our end, it just the way it worked out. So I ran into thinking the rest of the year was going to be me working on this platform with all these local businesses, which I would have really enjoyed. That's just one of my passions is I like being able to see the results of the work I do. And if I'm just building random websites for, businesses that work downtown in the towers and whatnot, that's, I don't know. I don't feel it. But the restaurant 2 blocks from me, when I see, them having trouble answering the phones because they're so busy at night, that makes me happy. I want to build their website. I want to do some of their online marketing. I want to, so I feel better doing that. And so I want to find a way to keep doing that type of work without having to go back and take the types of contracts that I've been taking lately, which are the ones that I described on my stream last Friday what I was dealing with that client, and I told Micky earlier, and I gotta say it sounds like in the cooperative kind of environment, one, if that client had come in with a mess that big, it wouldn't have all fallen on my head, but also also it wouldn't have been a thing where I felt like we had to take this client. As an individual working with one other person and us just trying to make our bills alone, the two of us, we needed this client. So even though it wasn't one I wanted to take because the work was it was a mess. For Chris, just imagine a custom code base in PHP with a custom database. 2 years later, they add Code Igniter on top of it, change their mind 2 years later, switch to Laravel, while never upgrading the database to either CodeIgniter or Laravel standards, just using the backwards compatibility stuff. And then when they're halfway through the conversion to Laravel, the guy passes away who's developing it, and they hire a third developer. This guy now builds an Angular system on top of that just uses the Laravel and CodeIgniter, depending on which endpoint they're hitting, as REST endpoints. And that's the mess I inherited. And
I am jealous.
It's
so jealous.
So that kind of work wouldn't have just fallen on my head. I would have been able to bring in someone who knows Angular a little better than I do and said, help me break this down. One of the walls I had hit was just, in actually finding someone who I knew I trusted, who actually also, for some reason, liked Angular. Like, I don't know many people who still like Angular. Like, they've all moved on to React or Vue or, something else, right? Like,
I never really did care for Angular to begin with.
When I was first
it's a cool idea, but
yeah, it was like they were already doing the 1 to 2 move, and I already saw what they were doing to the developers, and I was like, I just don't want to be involved. No.
Yeah.
So I went with Vue.
One of the things that you just spoke to a minute ago was really kind of like being able to see the impact that you have. And that's another really valuable asset, really valuable part of being part of a cooperative, in my opinion. I mean, I spoke about the 7 cooperative principles earlier, and actually the 7th one is concern for community. Nice. And if you're part of a cooperative, generally there's some ethos that you're focused around together. It's like there's Vita Verde, for example, in Boston, as a cleaning cooperative, and they're one of their focuses is using all natural cleaning products and stuff like that. So like in our case, a lot of it is focused on personal users' freedom and free software as a tool in helping with that. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there too, that having some
it's kind of built into the nature of it.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, of course, who you would choose to start a cooperative with is ultimately very important.
Yeah. And I would like to say in the chat, Doxy, who has been one of the channel and one of my personal just best supporters over the last few weeks as we get this thing going. I am as interested as you are, and there's conversations to be had. But luckily, I'm friends with these people, and so when we have those tough questions, they'll know where to send us, and we've already got most of it out of this chat.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in that.
If I could just add, one of the things that reasons we didn't fall into that having all these clients that went out of business and stuff is because of some of the platforms we have built, like the Find It Cambridge. That is now being repurposed by the Immigrant Family Services to be an immigrant navigator to help immigrants find their way around a new community. And on top of that, it is being repurposed as a COVID-19 resource locator.
That's really cool.
It has many, many uses.
I really like that. So if I understand that platform, you've basically built modules on top of Drupal that are completely open for anyone to use, and you've built it out. Drupal, unlike other systems like, say, WordPress or other things, it's almost unique in the CMS space in that it allows you to build kind of what people call distributions.
That's what it is.
You don't see like distributions of WordPress or Craft or any of the others. You just see people saying, download this, and then our theme worries about pushing it to download the right plugins. No, you've built a distribution so people can download and install a Drupal that has, all of these pieces. So what are your modules actually focused on? They're focused on like the searching and indexing and display kind of stuff?
Yes, and profiles and mapping. It has a map where you can just click on the map and then choose to look for things within that area.
And I'm going to guess you're using like OpenStreetMap?
No, that's actually a custom implementation, that part of that map bit. The Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I've only done the infrastructure work on that. But, it's, shoot, and I totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, I think most of the modules are around, like, the event structure and the scheduling and stuff like that.
So
So
it allows them to input a program or an organization, like all their details. What are their hours? Where are they located? What do they do? And then a program, a sub of that organization, like they have a program for, to teach teachers basket weaving or whatever. And you could put all the info for the program, which may have many locations. So.
yeah, and it uses solar for the searching.
Cool. More open source. I love solar.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so that's really interesting to me, because one of the things here locally that Malden is dealing with, I live in Malden, it's a city north of Boston, is just honestly a lack of any good data. We thought about building out a business directory, and we started building one out that would be local, would allow people to put up job boards for their local businesses, events, all the other fun stuff, and we got a little into it, and the next thing we do, of course, is reach out to the business development officer in Malden and say, one of the things we need from the city is a list of all the registered businesses. And I'm thinking, that a city of this size, being that they also need to, take taxes from businesses and things like that, would understand this stuff. And he sends me a CSV file that he says is his actual most up-to-date. And now I know this to be true. This was his most up-to-date CSV file. It was a year out of date from the file date on the CSV file of all of the local businesses. Every row was missing at least 2 or 3 fields, from city to name to owner name, just random missing data. And then we decided, well, we're going to have to go through this line by line. And it was like 19,000 businesses, to which we found at least 7,500 in the list had been out of business for over a decade. So, it was just, even finding the data to build out a platform on top of something like your distribution for some cities is going to be really complicated. We ended up doing all that work. We have that database, and it's up to date to about the beginning of the pandemic because we were going to use it. Now we have to go back through and re-update it again because the pandemic wiped out another big swath of businesses. I'm wondering, with Cambridge, your work on this platform and with them, I know Cambridge is a little more progressive and has a little more kind of tech hubby nature to it. So did you have it a little easier with your data there than we did here?
Well, one of our expertise is data migration. We migrate from many formats to different, mostly it's Drupal upgrades, but we do, WordPress to Drupal, Drupal to WordPress, all kinds of data migrations. Yep. But I'll let Chris speak to that because we use feeds a lot. We pull in library feeds and things like that. So Chris, how does that work?
Yeah, no, we do actually pull in some feeds from elsewhere, but that's a minor part of the data that actually gets there. I wish that Ben were here to speak more about it because he could really speak well to this. But ultimately, the point is that we couldn't have done it without a city like Cambridge. They were really on top of it and heavily engaged and really had an outstanding group of people to organize this and to facilitate the reach out to everybody in the community that needed to be involved to be able to update the information in the Find It system. Because it's not just, it's not just one person at the top sitting there doing data entry. There's multiple accounts that can come in and update their own information or whatever. So the city was a big role in getting that working properly.
Yeah, yes. Here we do not have that. So because when you mentioned it, I was thinking about what it would take to get that going in other cities, and remembering that this isn't the first city that I've tried to deal with on any local data, and this was one of the better outcomes for me here, that they even had data they could give me. So data migration stuff and all that there's always going to be a need for that, especially for this type of work. But I find the platform idea really interesting, and also I'm sure just the very nature of it landing you work to, like, all of that makes so much sense to me. I really love the whole nature behind it, the 7 principles, the fact that there is an actual the USFWC there to help with things. Just all of it seems to be really the way it should be done. I'm a big fan of this now, and I'm going to start talking to some people, some of them in the chat, over there. Yeah, there we go. I'm getting better at this on-camera stuff. That about, possibly doing some of this myself. But I want to talk to you guys at some point about maybe using this platform on some of the local work here that we were playing with in Malden, like on data transformation and stuff like that. I'm totally fine. I don't know what tools you guys use, but I'm a big fan of Tala and Open Studio for that type of stuff. It's Java based, which isn't my favorite, but it is. It's an Eclipse add-on. And they have paid versions, but you never need it unless you're moving like petabytes. So like I use their open source community editions, and it works great.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, the majority of the migrations that we do are from site to site, so they tend to be able to utilize Drupal directly. So we don't have too many occasion for using additional tools outside of that. I did want to just say a little bit more about the platform cooperatives.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they are kind of a special breed of cooperatives. I essentially take it as the basic idea is like an Uber but owned by the drivers.
Right.
So like the whole digital labor conference came about as Trevor Schultz was recognizing how these extractive platforms were growing, so Uber and Airbnb and things like that just provide this platform framework, and then can extract whatever they want from it to let as people use the platform, and people using the platform have no say in how it's actually run, and obviously a big problem in platforms is that there's the network effect, and a lot of platforms seem to get pretty heavily entrenched. There's a big one big platform kind of thing, and hopefully that'll continue to break down as more Fediverse style platforms come online, but yeah, no, that's the general idea. So there's, for example, Stocksy. Stocksy is a platform cooperative that is run by the artists that are members of Stocksy, and they provide stock photography for sale on the site. So I mean, for things like Find It would be kind of a tricky one, but I don't know. It's just another method of creating a platform, and they're a little bit tricky because they tend to have multiple stakeholders involved. You could have the software developers and the users of the software, and potentially even a hosting service or something separately. That might not necessarily be the software developers. So the multi-stakeholder nature of it can tend to be a little bit tricky. But I guess the two things that I just wanted to point to are a couple of the primary resources for the two would be platform.coop, the website, and another one called ioo.coop, the Internet of Ownership, that has a directory of all sorts of platform cooperativism related stuff, which actually does include they're working on things such as open source free bylaws and governance, and helping people to actually start these things as well. So
yeah, we'll supply some links for your under the video when
definitely.
It gets launched. Definitely, we will do that.
I'm a big fan of all of this. So I wanna kind of describe, like you said, Fediverse, and for the people who might watch this, especially a lot of the YouTube viewers, what Chris was referring to is federated services. So this might be let's say Stocksy. I don't know Stocksy, but let's just use it as an example because he said it was a stock photograph site. If it was federated in the way that I understand federation, there's a piece of software that anyone can download and run and build their website on, or there's chat services like Mastodon that are federated. You can just run your own service, right? So you get a platform to put up your stock photography, or whoever, local to you that joins your copy of it. But now let's say you have a user who joins your Stocksy and they want to buy from a different Stocksy. If you have federated with them, that user can use the other one the same as they use yours, which is a really cool thing about the federation, is that, you have a user, and depending on how the federation is set up, you might actually have a user that's identified as coming from this one Stocksy. But, it's a really cool way for, you can imagine it in the Uber sense. Imagine that every city had, some local cooperative of drivers who were all running their own copy of the platform. And they just had it set up in a way where if you were in a new city, like say you had traveled, when you went to sign in, you signed in, and at the end of your username, you had the name of your local one, say back here in Boston, and it would import your user details into theirs and then let you go. And you're just working normally. The federated nature of it means that smaller groups can use bigger platforms, and bigger groups, like say a cooperative of cooperatives, can build on that platform to make it stronger for every one of the smaller cooperatives who's actually using it. It's a really cool setup when you talk about all the new federated services that are coming around. And I hadn't really thought about federated services in the nature of co-ops, but I really like that idea and how that meshes well.
It does.
Yeah, that was a perfect pickup on that idea. I mean, originally I was thinking of, the Fediverse stuff just in terms of, that's another possible way for us to exit from things like Facebook and Twitter and still have these services and networks. And, Mastodon obviously being the biggest, well, one of the biggest ones to me. But yeah, no, actually with Mastodon, there is a cooperative that runs an instance called social.coop. And, the people that are members on that instance actually all make a contribution annually to keep that platform running. So our Mastodon instance is paid for that way.
That's really cool. So that keeps like server costs covered and any, incidentals that might show up and all that type of stuff.
I paid $3 a month.
And you know what? That $3 means a lot to a service like that. So,
it does.
And you're paying that $3 and not having to, use an invasive platform.
Correct.
Exactly.
I love it. So, So there's cooperatives, there's, depending on what state you're in, how you set up your cooperatives, there's the Fediverse, which we just kind of, threw on at the end there. And I want to bring in a couple devs that I know that work heavily on federated stuff for an episode to kind of talk about that. So maybe I'll schedule them out for a couple weeks from now and kind of talk about all that stuff. On the cooperative side, I would say, I'm sure you've kind of figured this out by now if you're watching this video, but these two people and everyone that really works with them are unbelievably friendly and open. And I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but if people reach out to you guys, you're going to tell them where to go, what to do if they can't find it on the links. So the cooperative nature of all of this.
Yeah, we'll tell you where to go.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't expect them to set it up for you.
Very nicely.
That's not how this works. They're going to say, this is the resource you were looking for and send you on your way. I mean, don't ever think of cooperative nature meaning that also they are now bound to help you. That's not how that works. It's a different thing. But it does seem like a much more friendly space in terms of if I called up a competing, say, electrician, and I was an electrician, I would expect you to say, oh, yeah, here's how you do that so you can compete better with me. It's just it's a whole different thing. Oh, how did you forget it was Monday? Monday's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there anything else that you think we should impart on the users? We're just over an hour now, and for these, I usually, end up around the hour mark. Sometimes randomly we end up like Friday at 3.5 hours, but we had a chat that was going wild and wouldn't let us walk away from that one. So is there anything that we missed? Like, I asked the questions that I knew I needed to kind of know answers to, which really helped me here because I think going into this, having my own questions kind of spurred us along a little. But like, what did we miss? Anything?
Gee,
I'm not in the space, so I don't know what I might have missed, right?
Yeah. Well, as Chris referred to, the 7 principles are really good for people to take a look at. The first one, of course, is self-care. And I usually, when people I meet on the street in the subway when we were able to do that or something, it would be like, what's a cooperative? And what's the difference between a cooperative and my corporation or whatever? And I would say, well, do you think you could go into work or call into work and say, my aunt is sick in Missouri and I got to travel out there and I got to leave tomorrow morning and I need $4,000 and I won't be back for 2 weeks? What do you think they would say to you?
Well, that's fun.
A cooperative, most of the cooperatives we know would say, here's 5,000. Take 4 weeks.
We'll figure it out.
What you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like how we actually do make decisions and stuff like that, like there are some cooperatives that are larger.
Yes.
I'm thinking outside of the tech space now, but and those cooperatives, they may have a more traditional hierarchical structure internally in terms of just management efficiency type of thing. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to one work or one vote. So when it comes time to make decisions, they still operate that way. In our cooperative, we generally run by a consensus. It's not a strict consensus, but
right.
Nobody's the boss in our cooperative. And it's
You're not the boss of me.
Really,
Yes.
right? We're our own boss. So. Yeah.
So in chat, Dr. Abinway there asked, let's see here, how do you see cooperatives and solidarity working together in principle?
Well, I see the solidarity working when you choose to buy from and work with other cooperatives, whether they're tech cooperatives or, housing cooperatives or producer cooperatives. It's just a
farm
way
co-ops.
of sharing solidarity. Yeah, buy from other co-ops.
Maybe Mickey's just being modest here, but she's actually working directly with Solidarity Economy.
Yeah, I'm on the board of the Solidarity Economy Network, and it ties in a lot.
Yep.
I mean, that's a very tough question for people who don't really know those two words in the way that we use them, to parse. Like when you say, how do you see cooperatives and solidarity working? If you were to say that to my mom or, my grandmother or people, who have never dealt with any of these types of things, that question itself would have been impossible to parse, let alone the answer, right? So I think we need to kind of, there's an educational component for the future of this, but it starts with more people just actually working like this, like starting up more co-ops and working together with other co-ops.
Well, Agaric built a platform a while ago for an MIT project called Cultura, which is a cultural exchange. And so we started with French, and it was basically like, what does this mean to you in English, and what does this mean to you in French? And there was one question about the word solidarity. Well, when the French posed it, what does solidarity mean to the Americans? They said, oh, it means you're alone. They were thinking solitary.
No.
Oh my God, it's like horrifying.
No, having been through both 27 straight days of solitary, and a few months of solidarity at Occupy, they are very different things. Just to throw that out there, that's a mistake.
It shows how poor our level of education is. A lot of people thought it meant you're alone or you're working alone.
So we're gonna when I put the YouTube up, we obviously talked about many things here. It's all cooperative related, but there's probably going to be 10 links, at least in the description there, for all the stuff: the book, the platform.coop, Agaric, of course, you're gonna send me a bunch of links to these things, and then we'll get them up and we'll let everyone kind of go through. I would say if you have any questions about this stuff, reach out. The links are going to hopefully help you get most of it. I definitely want to link to like the USFWC.
Yes. Me a while.
I'll get there. Well, I keep wanting to because it's I keep wanting to do WOC and then having to correct myself because the O is there. It's just not part of the acronym. And I'm guessing that was because like they didn't want to somehow have it be like woman of color or something like as part like you know what I mean? Like I just some confusion or something, right? So yeah, okay. So there's going to be links. There's going to be all kinds of fun stuff for people to deal with here. I think this was great. This was like, I got what I wanted out of this, and I think we're going to be able to, SEO the title really well on YouTube, and hopefully people who want to know about this type of stuff will be able to learn from people who've actually lived it. This isn't just academic in nature. Agaric's been around for 15 years working this way and surviving and supporting its people. So co-ops can work, and they can work well.
Yes.
So,
we've been profitable for 15 years. So,
all right, Chad, I'm going to give you one more chance to ask any questions you got before we call this one, but I think we got those out of the way. And yep, thank you all. All right, yeah. So everyone, definitely, please share the video out there. I love this. I think more people in tech should be working cooperatively. I love the idea of the co-op run Fediverse, if you will, like those two things work so well together. And in my head, I hadn't put them together as tightly as we just did here. That is a brilliant connection to make. I love it. So we'll definitely be pushing that. Thanks to Chris, thanks to Micky, and of course everyone else at Agaric who makes you coming on here possible. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Thanks so much for having us, Greg.
All right,
Thanks,
that is
Greg.
gonna be the show. Here we go with the end credits and the killing of the microphones there.